Atlanta are going to make the Eastern Conference Finals.
Zion never makes an All-NBA first team. I don't believe that the Warriors are making the playoffs this season. New year, new MTBA, and with that come hot takes. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to MTBA Unpopular Opinion. We'll start off with Teo. He's lined up 3 hot takes for us to analyze. Let's get into it.
Right, Happy New Year. And first of all, Atlanta are going to make the Eastern Conference Finals. And here's why.
Straight into it.
Honestly, I have no problems with this take. I think with the way they've been playing and the way that their offense is shaping up to be a top 3 offense in the league, I think they've got all the pieces. I think John Collins is putting a solid job in, and I think Trae Young is just elevating himself to that 30-point scorer that we all knew he could be. And I think for Trae Young, it's just about consistency. The coaching staff looks good. Lloyd Pierce, I think, a very young coach, but at the same time, a very established coach because he's proven that he can run creative offense, shoot off screens, hand off plays, deep pick and rolls, and then backing off of the pick and rolls. The only thing that you can criticize about Atlanta is their really bad defensive ratings, and that might complicate things on a deeper playoff run.
For me, it's not a hot take. I've said in previous podcast episodes that I think they're making the playoffs. Whether they make the Eastern Conference Finals, I don't know whether they have it in them, because considering it's a new team and it'll be their first playoff run, maybe. But I'm all up for it.
They
am
are
rooting
a top
for
3
the
offense
Hawks.
in the league.
Yeah, and with DeAndre Hunter, who is a good defensive player and was supposed to be only a 3-and-D player, his shooting's improved this season.
And he's showing that he can create offense. And thank you for giving me a really nice segue into my opinion that, again, I think you're slowly going to see DeAndre Hunter become that second star on a very loaded Hawks team, and he is going to take the place of John Collins. And John Collins, because of his limitations with his 3-point shot and him being a more traditional big man, I think John Collins' help will be more on the defensive end than it will be as a second option. And I think John Collins is actually the perfect mold of a big man to be a third option. So that's my second Hawks-related hot take of DeAndre Hunter being an all-star.
This hot take that I have now will probably blow a lot of Pelicans fans' minds, and I will probably get a death. I'm writing myself a death sentence, but I've said that Zion never makes an All-NBA first team. I just don't believe he has it in him. All he has is his inside game. His defense has really declined, especially what we saw in Duke and high school, but high school we don't really count. He still has a decent vertical, but he's not wanting to defend. You know, you'll get the occasional block maybe every 10 games, but he doesn't want to block. He doesn't want to implement himself into defense. And the fact is, we've seen with Blake Griffin, for example, he's very similar to player to him. He hasn't got a 3-point shot. Zion's defense is lacking, and he's got his dominance inside, but it only works if you've got weak defenders around you. Players like Rudy Gobert, or if you later into the playoffs, that defense will improve, and Zion won't be able to cope with the pressure, I think.
As a Pelicans fan, I kind of agree with you, because I still have I am one of these very cautious Pelicans fan, and not one of these like we will protect Zion by any means type of Pelican fans that will literally die with the take. And what I mean by that is that they're the fans that would say, well, if we don't support Zion 100%, then we're going to fall into the Anthony Davis trap, and then we're going to be in the same position that we were about 2 years ago with Anthony Davis. In my opinion, Zion has all the potential. I just think with Zion, it's about the effort and the weight. First of all, the way that he impacts defense when he's engaged is second to none. I think that span in the NBA bubble proved that he was at best a top 15 player in the league with only playing 18 games, and his defense was, let's say, he was engaged, and a defensively engaged Zion has a similar defensive impact to a Giannis. Now, whether that comes more easily with a smaller frame and a more muscle in the frame rather than all the body fat he carries, I think his defensive effort and his defensive engagement comes from the potential aspects of his actual body mass and him being able to carry himself on the floor.
Yeah, and one more point is that all that, and theoretically, you lose weight, you're more agile. And although he's still a really quick player, I can see from watching games that he turns that ball over way too much. He doesn't think very well sometimes on offense. I know he's very good inside, and I'm not going to deny it. There is no 3-point shot. He's a bully inside, but that's limited in today's game because we're all about the three. And if a player doesn't have a 3-point shot in the league, you're more likely not going to make an All-NBA, with exception to Giannis because of his defensive and inside dominance. But overall, I don't believe Zion makes an All-NBA first team.
Yes, and I, as of this moment, I will agree with you. Now, 2 years down the line, whether there is weight changed, we will see. Now, this leads me on to my hot take that Pelicans fans won't like, because I think we as Pelicans fans have kind of this engagement of where we're all in for Zion, but we kind of disregard our best player, and that is one Brandon Ingram. And I still think that Brandon Ingram has all the potential to be a 28-point Hall of Fame type scorer, because just look at the frame, look at how easily he can create a mismatch just from his jumper in isolation. That his form is beautiful. He's got everything working for him. He just needs to be a bit more aggressive going to the rim. That I agree. He's scared of contact. That is an open criticism. His defense has gotten much better. His defensive impact when he's on the floor is a plus for the Pelicans. He's having a better defensive impact than, let's say, Zion. He's not on the level of Alonzo because Alonzo is the backbone of our defense. But at the same time, Brandon Ingram is a positive, and I can really see him developing into, let's say, not an all defensive type defender, but somewhere around that level. And yeah, so my hot take is that without the defensive backbone of a Lonzo Ball being our floor general for the future, and then without the scoring ability of Brandon Ingram, I do not think that Zion Williamson will legitimately be a consecutive All-Star. And he's proven he can be a 28-point scorer.
Well,
he's proven that.
And his most improved has showed that he can adjust and he can get better.
And I think the sky's the limit for him. And I think it's time for us to realize that the best player on the Pelicans and the future of the Pelicans is Brandon Ingram and then Zion Williamson as the sidekick, and not the other way around.
Now, moving on to mine, moving over to Golden State, my second one. And now I've said, as a Golden State fan, I don't believe that the Warriors are making the playoffs this season. Reason for it? Well, Kelly Oubre and Andrew Wiggins, where both of them have had an absolute shambles from three. We already saw for the last however many seasons he's been in the league that Andrew Wiggins is a selfish player. At best, he's a 20-point scorer, and he doesn't distribute the ball at all. When there's better shots for someone else, he doesn't pass it off. He'll try and attack the rim. I know he's got a decent height, but it's not good enough to compete against the big guys. His shooting has been poor, as I've said. I'm not even going to go on Kelly Oubre shooting, because the fact that he's only made 1 3 this season, and he was supposed to be our replacement for Klay Thompson for a season. Come on. And the fact that they're like, what, 2 in 4 or 1 in 4 is ridiculous.
I've got to agree with you. I think the Warriors have been disappointing. I think there are only 2 players on that squad that are producing good minutes and good basketball, and that is Steph Curry and James Wiseman, because I still think that James Wiseman will end up being a top 3 Rookie of the Year candidate. Now, I just think with the Kelly Oubre thing, you had to sign him because you got a player exception because of his injury, the injury exception, and you had a roster spot to fill. You weren't going to sign an automatic replacement 3-point shooter, because if you were looking
There's no need for it, if I'm honest.
There's no need for it. Exactly. So I just think the Warriors are going to end up in the lottery again, and I'm confident in saying that. And I honestly think that this is a very disappointing way to see Curry's tenure in the NBA end, if this is one of his final years in the NBA. Now, moving on to my third take, I've just got to say it simply. I think the emergence of this young man is just astounding. I think he is proving why Boston might have one of the best futures in the East, and that is one Jalen Brown. I think not only is he coming into his own offensively, and he is slowly getting his way to being a 20 to 23 point scorer, but his impact on that squad is defensively. And to be fair, if the man can be that defensive rock while Jason Tatum gets the business done on the other end, that duo is going to do something special in the East in years to come, and I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, and to counter your point, the thing is, do you regard him as a forward or do you regard him as a guard?
I would regard him as a shooting guard.
In that case, he's not. I don't think he's the best defensive player in the league, and as a result, he won't. I don't think it would be very hard for him to win Defensive Player of the Year. I was thinking that maybe if you see, because he's got a similar height to Kawhi, and seeing as Kawhi's already won Defensive Player of the Year, you could argue that, oh wait, he might actually have a chance, considering the award is basically all forwards. But realistically, it is the centers that are better at the defensive end. And let's be honest, I think Giannis, because of his length, he has both inside presence and a perimeter presence.
Yeah, but what I'm saying,
I get that has a big leap. He's had a big leap in defense.
I never said he was going to win DPOY, because as you said, DPOY is a big man award, and people need to realize that. The way that he is utilized as a shooting guard / a small forward, depending on rotations and depending on mismatches. So I would say that he is in his own right becoming one of the best defensive players in the league, and that's my hot take. And I think he is solidifying the base of the Celtics by far.
Speaking of more unpopular opinions, we have had some Instagram accounts who have gave us some of theirs. We'll start off with OKC_Thunder_reviews. Now, you didn't like this personally. I didn't really have a huge opinion on it, but the opinion is if the Rockets can get a Jordan Clarkson type scorer, they can be a title contender.
But aren't we saying that Jordan Clarkson is a point guard? And they don't
We
need
are.
another point guard.
Well,
And
no, in that sense, yeah.
and they don't need they don't need a point guard. First of all, I think they're going to make the playoffs on how good Christian Wood has been. And I'm sorry, Christian Wood to
James Harden
me,
more, but I know I don't. I'm not denying Christian Wood.
and
I
and
nearly
to
had him as
and
most
and to be
improved.
and to be fair, I currently Christian Wood for me is the most improved player.
Yeah, or Michael Porter, but
I would say Christian Wood because I don't trust Michael Porter. That's just my opinion. But I seriously think that even if James Harden were to leave the Rockets, I still think they would make the 8th seed with Christian Wood and John Wall. I still think that duo is good enough to get them to an 8th seed. So I realistically don't think that they. I don't think, and first of all, I don't think Houston are that concerned about going for a title this season because, first of all, they're just trying to regain a locker room, and that should be their main goal. That it should not be to win a championship this season.
no.
That's
Well,
just my opinion.
they've still got 3 years on Christian Wood's contract, and then again, if they, I think they will lose James Harden if they don't win a title. But then again, is that a blessing in disguise? I personally think so.
But to be fair, James Harden is going to be traded before the trade deadline. There is no way.
I think it's just to get his worth up at this point.
Yeah,
if he's worth more, you'll get more.
Yeah, and to me, I have no problem in saying this. I believe that Christian Wood is the best player on the. Is when James Harden is not playing, I believe that Christian Wood is the best Rockets player.
I do as well, to be honest. He's honestly showed a leap from an already most improved season last season to now even better at the currently. I know it's been like 3 games for the Rockets, but it's been impressive.
I would say that Christian Wood, the way that he is playing, he is becoming a top 10 big man in the league.
Right, moving on. Sixers.courtside have said Shake Milton will win 6th Man of the Year.
I agree with this because I do believe that he has been named as a 6th man by Doc Rivers, and Doc Rivers, when choosing people that he thinks are 6th man, he did it with Lou Williams in LA, and it's worked out perfectly. I think Doc Rivers is one of the few coaches in the league that knows how to work with a 6th man. And to be fair, I think Shake Milton is right up there because, to be fair, that award has become the Lou Williams Award. But I do think with Shake Milton and with a coach that knows the value of a 6th man, I think Shake Milton is in a very good position to win the award.
Although he's averaging 11 points, 3 assists and 2 rebounds, I've seen him put up like 20-point games or so. And bearing in mind, it's only been 5 games, he's still got another 70 odd to start improving those averages. Moving on, you have Giannis._.daily. This one's sort of hard to analyze, considering they're 2 different positions. But they've said
2 very different legends.
But they've said Tim Duncan is better than Kobe.
Oh boy. I would say that if you're looking at who contributed to more winning, I would say Kobe, because that's on paper.
Yeah.
I would say who's been more consistent while winning. I would say Tim Duncan, because that man has held that franchise in going to the playoffs for a good 15 to 18 years. With him on the roster, they never missed the playoffs. Which in his own words is one of his greatest career accomplishments. That every year in his career, basically every year that he was on the San Antonio Spurs, they went to the playoffs. And to be fair, that margin of success over a longer period of time is more of an indictment against Kobe, because although Kobe won more championships, I think the continuity of success for Tim Duncan is there.
Yeah, and
That's the only way that I can argue Tim Duncan over Kobe Bryant. I think if you're considering like who the better player is in the rankings of all time, you've got to give that to Tim Duncan, because again, I'm sorry to Kobe fans, but if you're ranking the best players of all time, Kobe comes in at
you
low
watch
20.
yourself.
No, honestly, Kobe is a top 5 greatest offensive player of all time. But I'm sorry, like,
But if we're talking GOAT status,
GOAT conversations,
he's
I'd say
not in
top 10. No. If we're talking top 10, if we're talking GOAT status, he's low 20s for me. Low 20s.
Yeah.
That's just my opinion.
Whilst Kobe was a stud, and if you needed a game winner, he'd be there. As you said, Tim Duncan so much more consistent, had better shooting percentages, and he was all over the floor. I know he was the most boring player ever, and that's why people don't see him that much. But the fact that he was boring contributed to him winning championships. Now, finally, Celtics clicks have said Terry Rozier is going to get traded.
I believe this is waiting to happen, because I honestly think the Charlotte Hornets will panic, and they will realize the cap space situation that they've put themselves in by signing Gordon Hayward has just screwed them over so much that and also you've got to remember that they've given 2 average players max contracts over the last 2 years. They gave Terry Rozier the max, and they gave Gordon Hayward the max.
And if I'm honest with you,
I'm sorry, that to me is an indictment against Michael Jordan being a good owner. Because if you're a good owner, you don't give 2 max level contracts to 2 average NBA players that aren't all-stars.
After 5 games, and I'm going to twist this opinion a bit, and I'm going to say, don't get rid of Terry Rozier, get rid of Gordon Hayward. I think he's been worse than Terry Rozier. Terry Rozier is actually, I know he did this last season at the beginning where he's put up decent numbers and then he's just drifted away. But Gordon Hayward is so inconsistent. One game he scores 4 points, then he's scoring 14. I think he's had a 20-point game, but
28-point game. He's had a 28.
But he's supposed to be a lethal shooter. With that kind of money, you're supposed to be shooting at least 25 points a game. And he's only had one game that's over 25, and the other which is 4. Like, come on.
Yeah, but to be honest, Gordon Hayward's on one of the worst contracts in the league. So
no, he is, and everyone can agree with that.
And to be fair, that contract is untradeable. So basically, Charlotte Hornets have, regardless of how bad Gordon Hayward becomes, and especially because ever since that injury, he's not been the same. Because before that injury, you could say that Gordon Hayward was a 25-point scorer. His time in Utah proved that. He was a solid 25-point scorer, and he developed. But that whole injury has screwed him over so badly that he has become, I would say at best, Gordon Hayward is a 15-point scorer. I've said it. And the fact that you're paying a supermax or a near supermax for that type of player, I am sorry. Like, Gordon Hayward and Rudy Gobert are in the same discussion. Former teammates are in the same discussion for having the worst contracts in the league.
Yeah, that's all I can really say to that. Yeah, you are completely right, and I don't believe in Gordon Hayward. With that, make sure you check out all these accounts. The links will be in the description, and if you're watching the video, their page will be probably in front of your face. And with that comes goodbye. Thank you very much for watching. Be sure to check out our Instagram at MTB_voice. Twitter is the same. Our blog will be in the description. YouTube is MTBA Voice. From me, good night.
To a good basketball season, I've been Taylor Roger.